is Alex Gitlin, also known as PERINEUMSTEW, and I am an illustrator from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm currently still living in the garbage city cesspool that is New York. I mean, I guess really goes back to my childhood where I was a child of the 80s, early 90s, and I just grew up watching cartoons, just a steady diet of cartoons going. But I think really it the game changer for me and something that really spoke to my sensibilities. I think there were two things. One was my first exposure to Garbage Pail Kids. I think for whatever reason, just my sensibilities as a human being, I gravitated toward those. So before I even understood what those were, I remember buying those cards like every weekend. I would look forward to that. My grandma would take my sister and I on long walks, and we get pizza, and then we'd also get to pick out like a comic book, and maybe some trading cards. And I would always get the Garbage Pail Kids. They were just so gross and funny to look at. So I think there was just that kind of puerile enjoyment there, and that's kind of stuck with me ever since. And the other part was, I think there was obviously comic books. I think I loved X-Men and like all the Marvel stuff, Batman. I mean, all the basic classics. But when I got cable TV, I think that was around 91 or 92, something like that. My whole world was changed with Nickelodeon back in those days. Just some of those shows were incredible, and particularly Ren and Stimpy, I always say, basically shaped my adult life, kind of shaped my life in a lot of ways. That show's just so odd and just fucked up on so many levels. I mean, you could still enjoy it as an adult. I mean, there's so much innuendo in there, but yeah, that show really just, especially what stands out to me are a lot of those stills, just those still images from that show that were just so grotesque, but you couldn't stop looking, and so that really, I always wanted to just draw those things. So I think really Ren and Stimpy and a lot of the other shows, just like Rocco's Modern Life, and aside from just kind of the artistic qualities, the content of those shows too, I think there was just something particularly dark about them, and definitely said about a lot about the world. There was almost kind of like a tragic kind of Seinfeld type of humor to them, where it was just the protagonist would just kind of always be fighting against the current, really. But nonetheless, it was just really weird and amusing, and I think it really helped, especially forming your imagination as a child, where you naturally just say odd things and you make up stories. I think it was a great lesson just in terms of understanding that when you see those things on TV too, there's other people kind of thinking weird thoughts, and it's I think it makes you feel normal in a way. That's a really tough one. Most of my work is pretty fucked up. It's not the most friendly imagery, so I'm gonna roll with this guy here, actually. This is something I did really recently. Literati. Obviously, I love puns, and the reason I choose that, because I think, well, I like cats, and I think this cat in particular, he has some intellectual curiosities. He's reading Peeing in Nothingness. I think Being in Nothingness certainly shaped a lot of my kind of philosophical beliefs back in the day. And I mean, what's better than, you know, sitting on the toilet and reading? I mean, he's taking a shit in the litter box. Total freedom, total freedom there, and you know, he's enjoying a book and smoking whatever's in that pipe. So I think those are three things I thoroughly enjoy doing, and you know, there's nothing really nefarious or deviant or kind of grotesquely sexual going on in that one. So yeah, if I was going to be one of my drawings, I think I would probably play it safe with that one. Now, that is an interesting one. I think there's so much art that I love, but you know, I would honestly, so there's two in particular. I would love to be like an art installation. I think Mike Kelly's work is incredible, and you know, it's not something that I grew up with. It was actually something that I discovered way later on. I think at a retrospective at PS1, I went to go see his work, and really I ended up just buying like all the books, and it's fascinating, and I think it touches on a lot of just a lot of things I also just, you know, just in terms of my overall philosophy, and just the weird factor I'm drawn to, and just you know, it especially just touches on like just subjects of sexuality in this kind of in this dark way, but it's also presented in a very cartoony light manner. Like you have the you know, all the exhibit, there's all the pieces he did with stuffed animals, and it's, you know, it's pretty overtly, you know, sexual and phallic and vaginal and all of that, but just the presentation of it, you, like, a little kid can look at it and not really understand, but it's, you know, it's very, you know, conducive to, you know, the eye to just enjoy, to just enjoying the visuals of it too. So I think I would love to be one of those exhibit pieces. And then there's also what's his name, Yoshifumi Hayashi. So I actually have a book of his. For anyone that's not familiar with his work, Japanese artist who, again, very odd kind of sexual drawings, lots of stuff, kind of very, you know, it's very, I would say, you know, his style, it's very refined, but also, you know, just this very kind of intestinal quality to it, very, you know, phallic, vaginal, it's just really overtly sexual. And yeah, and I think there's obviously a deeper element to all of it, but I just fascinated by his style, and I would, you know, kind of love to be a spectator within one of these worlds that he has here. So yeah, pretty odd, but nonetheless, yeah, if I was gonna be somebody else's work, I think those are the two. I think two people I just mentioned, I think they're certainly inspirational, but when it really comes down to it, as well, just going back, you know, through my childhood and through all these years, in Bob Campa, Ren and Stimpy, that was just a classic for me. I absolutely love that show, still watch it. Just his styles were amazing. Jan Vasquez, who did Invader Zim, but more importantly for me, I think the Johnny the Homicidal Maniac comics. Again, my friend Alan put me onto those back in high school, and oh my god, those were just incredible. And I think in particular, I think those spoke to us a lot, just kind of our overall sentiments about things. But it was just fucking hilarious, and it was just fucked up and hilarious. I think there's definitely that. I mean, Robert Crumb again, and it's funny. I was familiar with seeing a lot of Robert Crumb's work around, but it was really until like late high school that I really started looking into him and understanding who that was, and you know, and I think in a lot of ways, having come across his work and just seeing that style around from, you know, my earlier days, certainly something that really caught my attention, and I think that really kind of resonated in my subconscious. I mean, Ed Roth, those characters are fantastic. I loved also Charles Burns. I mean, his style is incredible. I mean, it's not necessarily kind of what I do, but there's a lot of things I try at this point. I just really get it, like I'm still getting better with inking and learning how to do that, and I think if only one day I can ever be as neat as that. I mean, he's absolutely incredible. There's who else? I have a whole list here. Jim Shaw, Robert Williams. I mean, before I even knew who Robert Williams was, I remember as a kid seeing the inside flap of Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses album, for anyone who doesn't know that. I don't know if there's anybody who doesn't know that, but anyway, yeah, just that, I mean, that image is just so fucked up with the woman with her panties down and that crazy, that crazy alien creature and the fucking robot, and like, as, what was I, probably like 6, no clue what was going on there, no clue in terms of the content or the subject matter, but it was just a fucking awesome image, and I remember always, my eyes were just always drawn to it, and always kind of try, in my shitty, little kid way, try to draw those, kind of similar type of monster creatures all the time. And then eventually, later on discovering, a lot of his other work, just really odd and psychedelic, and just, I would definitely say he's up there for sure. I mean, like, obviously, just in terms of more inspiration, it's just, not everyone reflects in the work I necessarily do. I love cartoon work, but I mean, like, Giger, just the Alien movies scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. Just that creature, and then eventually, being exposed to more of his actual, like, fine art. Again, that guy was just amazing. What is it? John Pound. Again, like Art Spiegelman, like all the people who did the Garbage Pail Kids. I think, again, Garbage Pail Kids is really, that's really the seed for me right there. And then from there, it kind of goes into, Ren and Stimpy, and obviously, The Simpsons was, all of that art was really just inspirational as well. I've watched that show from the very beginning, and before I even understood what the hell was even going on. But again, another brilliant thing, and like anything Tim Burton did, I remember my first exposure to Tim Burton was Batman, and what was it, 89? I was probably like 6 years old. Again, like, no clue, or not a great understanding of all the content of the film, but again, like, he just had a particular, just that dark style that really stood out to me. And then just kind of also just aside from illustration, I think in terms of film, someone who I found a little later on, but I love Alejandro Jodorowsky, can just take so many things away from his movies. And also photographer who I discovered about 5-6 years ago, who just absolutely fell in love with. He went by the name of Ralph Eugene Meatyard. He did a lot of series with taking family portraits, and just these kind of rural suburban shots with like kids playing, but and like just family portraits, but everyone's like wearing these creepy masks, and it was just this is like I think he was mainly around 50s, 60s, and so it's a little way ahead of his time, and just very very gothic, and certainly pretty disturbing. But I think like looking at a lot of those masks and those textures, those are kind of things that spoke to me, just because my work, I like lots of lines. And sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just throwing like haphazard lines because I think they look pretty cool. But the more wrinkly I can make something, the better for me. Amusing stories. I don't really have any amusing stories lately, but I can tell you something art related from when I was a kid. This was probably either second or third grade. But my friend and I, we would draw all the time. We wouldn't pay attention in class. You can look at all my report cards. They pretty much reflect that. Undiagnosed ADD. But nonetheless, yeah, we used to just sit and draw comics all day. We loved, we loved Spider-Man, like all those Marvel things, but we'd make our own characters, and so we had these characters called Magnet Man and Motor Man. It was really retarded, but anyway, we went through all these like dumb 7-year-old story arcs with these characters. It was like, oh yeah, bad guys are coming. Oh yeah, well, let me just karate chop him and like take his head off. All right, done. But so we decided, what, there needs to be more to these characters. So let's give them like some kind of domestic life. Let's showcase that. What does that look like? And so my friend had an older brother, who started letting him on to other things and more precocious matters of sex and whatnot, where obviously you start hearing all those conversations and you start picking that stuff up. So of course he's gonna be like, hey man, you know what we should do? We should have like these, when they're older they have sex. So it was like, okay, let's draw them doing it. So my 7-year-old self, who was I wasn't very educated in terms of in terms of sex and anatomy at that point. So I of course started drawing them like on top of each other, but they were just like, but Magnet Man's wife had a dick, and they were just rubbing dicks basically. So I was just like a 7-year-old drawing like basically what was a superhero with, I guess, transvestite. I don't know, but basically just a woman with a dick. She could have been a hermaphrodite too. I don't know, but all I know is they were rubbing dicks, and my buddy's like, dude, it's like, why are you drawing a woman with a dick? And I was like, I don't know, don't like girls have dicks too? And he's like, no man, they have like holes there. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So yeah, so that's kind of how I learned about vaginas, was by drawing women with dicks and then being corrected. And I think that's probably, it's funny because almost 30 years later, that still resonates in my artwork. I just like drawing dicks is funny, and especially drawing dicks on chicks. I mean, it's fucking funny. Let's face it. So yeah, that was I think that's an amusing story, at least to me. What would I tell people? Honestly, I just enjoy any reaction people have. I like positive reactions. I like it when people enjoy my work. Also, just not to take it too seriously. I am not a very serious person. I just like making, dumb jokes. And I kind of get off on if people are offended, that makes me smile. Obviously I don't want people to be horribly offended. I don't think I do anything horribly offensive. I think if anything, some stuff I do, I'm just being an idiot, and that's totally fine. But yeah, I like seeing, I like it when people are a little bit disturbed, grossed out, offended, but like in a fun way. So I think I would just tell people to, take a look and have fun with it. Enjoy or don't enjoy the moment. So yeah, I think, and also if you do like my work, go to my store and buy a dumb T-shirt or buy a print, or always makes me happy too if people want to request a commission that obviously fits what I do, and or I think that's yeah, I think that's really it. It's just always nice to meet some like-minded people who just enjoy who enjoy different kinds of art and have open minds about everything. So that's it.